All right, gentlemen, I'm going to go over the math homework for tonight. Today is September 5th, 2018, and we talked about solving equations with variables on both sides of the equation. So I'm going to take a look at number one, but before I get started, I just want to remind us of a couple of things. The first thing that we do when we're solving an equation that has a variable on both sides is we simplify. And in this case, we mostly use the distributive property. Distributive. And then our second step is to use the properties of equality to isolate the variable. So I'm going to put isolate variable with properties of equality. And if we remember, properties of equality is the fancy way of saying whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to another side of an equation. So I'm going to take a look at number one. And I'm going to take a look first at what I have here. I have 1/2 6x minus 2 is equal to 4/5 10x minus 5 plus 43. I have two expressions. Each of these expressions, and by the way, remember the expression is what comes on one side of an equation. So I have two expressions that make up this equation. So this expression right here, I'm going to simplify it by distributing that 1/2 to 6x and to the -2. When I multiply something by 1/2, it's the same as dividing it by 2. So 1/2 times 6x is going to leave me with 3x, and 1/2 times -2 is going to leave me with -1. I'll bring down that equal sign. And over here, I have some distributive property as well. I'm going to circle my 4/5. Okay, so 4/5 of 10x is going to give me 8x. And then 4/5 of -5 is going to give me negative, 4/5 of -5 is going to give me -4, and then I'll bring down that plus 43. Okay, before I use my properties of equality, I want to see if there's anything on either side of this equation that I can combine and simplify. So if I have any like terms. So over on this side of the equation, 3x minus 1, I can't combine anything here. When I look at the other side of the equation, I have 8x minus 4 plus 43. I do have two constants here that I can combine. So I have this -4 and I have the positive 43. So I'm left with 3x minus 1 is equal to 8x, and then when I combine the -4 and the 43, I'm left with positive 39. I'm going to rewrite this over here so that I have space. So I have 3x minus 1 is equal to 8x plus 39. All right, so now I have a decision. Now I want to decide which side of the equation do I want to put my variable. And when I make that decision, I typically am going to use the variable that will leave me with the not having a negative. Forgive me. So I'm going to say that again. If there's a way that I can avoid having a negative variable, I'm going to do that. Okay. And so in this case, I'm going to subtract the 3x from both sides. All right. So I have minus 3x minus 3x. So that leaves me with -1 is equal to 5x plus 39. All right. So I got rid of the 3x on this side. Properties of equality. I have to do the same thing over here. Left with -1 is equal to 5x plus 39. And now I need to isolate this x. So the first thing I have to do is subtract 39. I subtract 39 from both sides, minus 39. And that's going to give me -1 minus 39 is going to give me -40 is equal to 5x. And now I have something that looks a little bit like what we worked on in 6th and 7th grade. I divide both sides by 5. All right, and I'm left with x is equal to, and then 5 goes into 40, 8 times, -8. So I have x is equal to -8 as my answer here. Now, you may be wondering, how can I prove that this is correct? You also might be wondering, hey, what if I make a couple of different decisions? And so I'm going to show you. Take a few minutes just to make sure that you have this copied. So I would pause the video right now and make sure you have this copied. I'm actually going to erase my work, and I'm going to do this problem a different way. All right, so in the beginning, when I'm reworking this problem, it's going to look pretty much the same. Get my pen back here. Okay, great. I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign, and I'm going to circle my 1/2, distribute it to the 6x, distribute it to the -2. I'm left with 3x minus 1 equals, circle my 4/5, distribute it to the 10x, distribute it to the -5, 8x minus 4 plus 43. Okay, Miss Ayad, so far you're pretty much doing the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to actually do it again here. I'm going to combine my -4 and my 43. So I'm left with, don't forget the equal sign, 3x minus 1 equals 8x plus 39. I'm going to rewrite this over here, and here's where you're going to see me do something a little different. 3x minus 1 equals 8x plus 39. Now, what if instead of moving the 3x and isolating the x on this side of the equation, I moved the 8x to isolate the x on the left side of the equation? So I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. So now I'm left with 3x minus 8x is going to give me -5x minus 1 is equal to 39. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I'm left with -5x equals 40. I divide both sides by -5, okay, and I'm left with x is equal to -8. So 40 divided by 5 is 8. So x is equal to -8. So we see that I got the same answer even though I did the equation in a slightly different way. And I know we're taking a lot of time on this one question, but I want you to stick with me here because I'm going to prove how, excuse me, I'm going to prove how my answer is correct by plugging in my -x to the variable. So I'm going to do some more erasing here. Okay. Go back to my pen, I'll do a different color. So I'm going to plug this in. I'll do pink. Okay, so I'm going to say 1/2 6x minus 2 is equal to 4/5 10x minus 5 plus 43. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. 1/2 of 6 times -8 minus 2 equals 4/5 times 10 times -8 minus 5 plus 43. Okay, so I'm going to go over here first. I can actually work out the parentheses before I do the before I distribute, because I don't have a variable inside anymore. I've replaced that. So I'm going to have my 6 times -8, which is going to give me -48 minus 2. So I have -48 minus 2 times 1/2. That gives me -50 times 1/2, which gives me -25. All right. Now let's do the same thing over here. I have 10 times -8, which is going to give me -80 minus 5. I don't want to forget about this plus 43 over here. -80 minus 5 is -85. Let me make sure I'm right about that. Yep. 4/5 of -85. Let's see, 85. Okay, is going to give me, oops, sorry, -68. When I do -68 plus 43, I'm going to get -25. So I'm left with -25 equals -25. So I've proven that I have the correct answer to this equation, the correct value of the variable of x. Take a moment if you need to copy anything down, and then we will move on to the next problem. All right, we're going to take a look now at number 2, and you might be thinking, Miss Syed, did we really just spend almost 13 minutes on one math problem? Yeah, we did, and that's something that you guys are going to have to get used to in 8th grade math, because our problems become much more complex, okay? So I'm being asked to solve for x, and if I look at my choices, it is asking me to get right down to the value of x. Sometimes your answer choices are a different equation, and so we want to see what we're actually being told that we need to look for. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to draw a line down the middle of my problem here. Oh, somehow I'm on the, there we go. Great. So I have 9 plus 8x. I can't really do anything over here. Over here, I have all this other stuff. So instead of being intimidated by that, I'm going to go ahead and just circle that 17, draw my arrow, okay, and distribute that. So I have -17x, all right, minus, so actually I'm going to do -17 times -2, which is going to give me positive, I believe that's going to be 34, plus 11, plus 28x. Okay, I didn't forget about my 9x, 9 plus 8x over here, but I'm going to stay over here for a minute because I have two places where I can combine like terms. It's a little orange. I can combine my -17x and my 28x. And I can combine my 34 and my 11. All right, so when I do -17x plus 28x, I should get 11x, and that's going to be positive. So I have 11x plus, and then 34 plus 11 is going to be 45, is equal to 9 plus 8x. All right. So now I need to make a decision of where I'm going to isolate the x. In this case, I'm going to subtract the 8x from both sides because I don't super love working with negatives. I can, but I don't want to. So I have 9 minus, and then I have, 9 is equal to 11x minus 8x should give me 3x plus 45. All right, I'm gonna work over here a little bit. So I have 9 is equal to 3x plus 45. Redraw this. I'm gonna subtract 45 from both sides, minus 45. 9 minus 45 is going to give me negative 36. Negative 36 is equal to 3x. If I divide both sides by 3, I'm left with x is equal to negative 12. So I'm thinking my answer is going to be A. But before I decide that, I definitely want to take a moment and prove that. So if you're looking for these notes, make sure you get them down, even if you need to pause the video for a second because I'm going to do some erasing. Okay, so since my theory right now is that my x is equal to negative 12, I'm going to go ahead and plug that into this equation. I'm going to need some space, so I'm going to write it out here. So I have 9 plus 8 times negative 12 equals negative 17 times negative 12 minus 2 plus 11 plus 28 times negative 12. All right, I can do this part over here very quickly. So I have 8 times negative 12, and that's going to give me 96. 9 plus 96 is going to give me 105. 105. All right, so now I need to hope that this other side gets me there. Okay, so I'm going to use order of operations here. I have negative 12 minus 2, which will give me negative 14. I have negative 17 times negative 14 plus 11 plus 28 times negative 12. Negative 17 times negative 14 is 238 plus 11 plus, and then I have 28 times negative 12. Let me just is negative 336. Okay, so then I have 238 plus 11 . All right, gentlemen, so I just paused the video because I realized I made a mistake. So here I did 8 times negative 12 is 96, and I should have ended up with negative, oops, yep, negative 96. So then 9 plus negative 96 is going to leave me with negative 87. So then when I add 238 plus 11. So 238 plus 11 is going to give me 249. Plus negative 336 or minus 336 is also going to give me negative 87. So in this case, negative 87 equals negative 87. I was right. My answer is negative 12. And we'll see that I made one seemingly small mistake with a negative integer, and that threw off my entire equation. So I want to make sure that I'm being very careful